Can money buy happiness? I mean, it's one of the oldest questions in the book, right? Well, today we're going to push past the cliches and look at what the actual science has to say. Welcome to the Explainer.
Look, the simple yes or no you might be looking for, well, it just isn't the whole story. We're about to dive into the real, evidence-based relationship between your bank account and your well-being. And let me tell you, the answer is way more interesting than you think. Okay, so to really get to the bottom of this, we've got to start with a groundbreaking study from 2010. It was from Daniel Kahneman, a Nobel Prize winner, and Angus Deaton. And what they showed is that before we can even ask the question, we have to realize we're actually talking about two totally different kinds of happiness.
First up, there's your emotional well-being. This is all about your in-the-moment feelings. How did you feel yesterday? Were you stressed? Were you happy? Think of it like your emotional thermostat, gauging your mood on any given day. But then there's life evaluation. This is completely different. This is what happens when you step back and think about your life as a whole. It's your overall satisfaction with your life story so far. It's like you're looking at a ladder and deciding which rung you're on. So here's the absolute key. One is about feeling happy in the moment, and the other is about thinking your life is good. That daily thermometer is really sensitive to things like your health or feeling lonely. But that life ladder, that's much more influenced by big picture stuff, like your income. And as we're about to see, money affects these two things in completely different ways. And this idea, this distinction, it leads us straight to one of the most famous and honestly most misunderstood findings in this whole field. $75,000. Now, this number comes from that 2010 study of over 450,000 Americans. Adjusted for today, it's more like 90 grand. But they found this was a critical threshold. The big question is, a threshold for what exactly? And this is where it all clicks. When it comes to life evaluation, that ladder, it just keeps going up. The more money people made, the better they rated their lives. Simple. But their emotional well-being, that daily thermometer, well, that told a very different story. It went up with income for a while, and then it just flatlined. It leveled off. So let me put it another way. Making more money kept making people think their life was better, but it stopped making them feel any happier day to day. High income absolutely buys life satisfaction, but it seems there's a cap on how much daily joy it can buy you. But is that really the end of the story? I mean, what happens when you blow way past that $75,000 mark? That's what our next bit of research wanted to find out. They asked, what about the really, really rich? Right, so a really fascinating study from 2018 decided to look at over 4,000 millionaires to see what happens to happiness at those extreme levels of wealth, far beyond the plateau we were just talking about. And the results were pretty surprising. It turns out that just being a millionaire, having $1 or $2 million, didn't really make people that much happier. The researchers only saw a significant, noticeable boost in happiness for people with a net worth over $10 million. So it looks like there might be another, much higher plateau for happiness. But the researchers also found a twist, and this part might be even more important. It wasn't just how much money they had, it was how they got it. This is wild. The millionaires who actually earned their wealth reported being moderately happier than those who just inherited it. That feeling of accomplishment, of having built something yourself, that seems to be a key ingredient in the happiness recipe that money alone can't buy. The industrialist Andrew Carnegie was saying something pretty similar more than a century ago, and it really seems like this modern data is starting to back him up. Okay, so far we've been focused on the individual. But our last study zooms way out. It asks a bigger, maybe more important question. How does the society we live in change this whole equation? What if this link between money and happiness isn't some fixed law of nature? A huge analysis in 2022 looked at almost 50 years of data from all over the world to find out, and honestly, the results really change how you have to think about this. Just take the US, for example. The data here is crystal clear. Since the 1970s, the connection between how much you earn and how happy you are has gotten steadily stronger. In other words, money matters more for happiness today than it did for our parents or grandparents. The real question is, why? Well, the study found a really powerful explanation: income inequality. This trend wasn't random at all.
It moved in perfect lockstep with the gap between the rich and the poor. In places like the US and Europe, where that gap has been growing, the link between income and happiness got stronger. But in some countries in Latin America, where inequality has actually decreased, that link has gotten weaker. And this suggests something pretty profound. The economic world we live in literally changes the rules. When that gap between the haves and the have-nots gets wider, money just plain matters more for our well-being. All right, so after digging into individual psychology, extreme wealth, and massive economic trends, what have we actually learned? Let's try to put all these pieces together. So does money buy happiness? The real answer from the science is yes, but it's much better at buying that long-term satisfaction than it is at buying day-to-day joy. For most of us, its effect on our daily mood just hits a ceiling. How you get the money matters a lot. And maybe the biggest takeaway is that the society you live in can turn the volume on money's importance way up or way down. And that leaves us with a final, kind of provocative thought. If our economic environment can actually rewrite the rules of happiness, then this relationship isn't some fixed part of who we are. It's a moving target, and you have to wonder, as our world keeps changing, what is the answer to this question going to look like tomorrow?